Now I have completely different topic. So it's true that the Mercury retrograde is about all those harsh stuff we talked about, um, but I also want to talk about something to do with communication, and Mercury, Jupiter, and the reception between them is a good time to try different things with communication, whether it's in our social media strategies, the way we present ourselves, and um, and basically, what do we expect from communication? It can range both from like when do we place triggers, when do we not place triggers in a discourse. That reminds me of the time where 2017, 2018. Wait, will I get to the topic? I will. Um, so this is going to be a little bit of like kind of like I wouldn't say my strategy, but more like my thoughts and what I'm trying right now in terms of communication. But before that, I kind of remember of when I was doing tips for people that deal with like trauma and narc abuse and whatnot. And there was even the question, should we say narc abuse? There were groups where you couldn't say narc abuse, you had to say narcissistic abuse. And there was question of what do I want to provide? Okay, I am not a social worker. I mean, which means I'm not a child kidnapper, but I'm also not a person that could provide for the containment and all that. So what can I and what can I not offer? The question of okay, what would be kind of like the rules of the quorum, and as well things I dealt with. It kind of like suddenly a woman was saying, "Oh, I thought this was only a space for women," when a man began to confess the narcissistic abuse that he went through, and I was like, hell to the no, to the no, no, no. Okay, until a man speaks, you're not gonna silence him. But there are all these things that can come up, I think, right now, and with Pluto in the sign of communities, this is a great time to take a look at when do we present ourselves formally, when do we present ourselves informally. What do we want to keep? I remember when I tended in 2017 to my business, and one of my objectives to marketing strategies when I have to be thinking about like the business image was that, hey, I don't want to turn my personal profile into a place where I cannot express myself authentically. So this conversation is kind of coming back right now. Is at my 10th house, and Jupiter is in my 11th house, which is kind of like communities and so on. And I want to address something, okay? First of all, you know what? Let's give a great example. Let's talk about Donald Trump. And Donald Trump can speak in the language of the people, whether it's actually the language of the people or a satire of it, I don't know, but he can adapt himself to his crowd, and he can be very funny and very accommodating, but he can also be incredibly serious and incredibly professional when he needs to be, whether you agree with him or not. He has great communication capacities. And so that does not refrain from the fact that he also had to adapt, things like perhaps grab them by the pussy is not so compatible with, like free men and women. Okay, but that is exo-cold people and so on. But this is something that when I think about with this, what is this platform for me? And so when it is my page, let's just put it that way. When it comes to, let's say, X or Twitter, I'm mostly unprofessional. Even when I do turn to things that are like professional, I'm mostly, not in the sense of unprofessional, in the sense of like not knowing what I'm talking about, but my style of decorum would be more like I would strike a joke. That's just the vibe of the platform. Okay, so I would strike a joke, I would be more emotional, and so on and so forth. When it comes to my, let's say, Instagram, that would be the same thing. When it comes to my Facebook, it would be like a combination of both. And this platform, this YouTube channel, is kind of like the everything of it. So I know that as an astrologer and as a broadcaster and as researcher in philosophy of sciences with the body mind question, and as ESP researcher and as activist in terms of like just being, living good, okay, and in whether it's recovery or whatnot, and the many hats that I wear here with all the experiments that I do here, I am in touch with a lot. Okay, so whether it is the charts that I read, and then I may have interaction in this or that forum or with this or that person, whether it is water expands upon cooling that went profoundly deep for me, and that space is sacred for me, whether it is the channeling experiences, whether it's personal things I share here on the platform. This is a place where everything is sacred, and I allow myself to be as unprofessional as I want. This is kind of the space that you would consider, let's say, a social gathering. So this is the informal, after a couple of beers place, as well as presenting my point of view and so on. It's mostly casual, but nonetheless the topics are very serious when they want to be, and I could address the same topic on my channel and be completely impersonal, okay, and this is allowing room for whether it's making mistakes, whether it's later having to correct myself. I don't delete myself, I don't erase myself, and I understand that I may have, let's say, especially with the Mercury retrograde, okay, there may have been some assumption and there was another assumption, or there may have been one thing and there was another thing. If I'm going through something and experiencing and describing that experience live, I have the right to describe my experience in my words, okay, that cannot be gaslighted in any way, shape, or form, and it is open to further understanding, okay, of what actually went on and so on, and that is very important, okay, because what this channel is my sacred space that is open to the people, and that should be respected. It doesn't mean that I won't present myself extremely professionally on other forums, okay, and it doesn't mean I won't strike a joke even when I'm professional, because that's just me, okay. You don't expect Donald Trump to not strike a pose. I shouldn't be judged differently to Donald Trump, okay. There should not be any issue of power inequity whatsoever, nor would I mistreat, okay, Donald Trump, let's say, for example, as a person, whether I agree or disagree with whatever he has to say or his policies, okay, as long as I'm, safe, free, and so on. And so that is to be taken into account. And this is, I think it is a good disclaimer. I think that sets the tone, that sets both the boundaries, but also, if I am recording something and I just am after, dealing with intense assaults or stuff like that, and I just go on and I'm like speaking freely and joking and laughing, it doesn't mean that I'm disrespectful or that I don't hold certain people at highest of standards or something like that. And that's also a disclaimer. Okay, the people that run into this channel, they don't know me, they don't know anything about me. They read a comment here or there, so that is important. And I'm a human being, and I have a life, quite intense life. And and there are various facets of both content and communication which I express, and I know that this is an international channel, okay? So people can come from various cultures, various contexts, various, platforms. You have to take into account that as the fact that I'm tending to expendable children, satanic abuse, the deepest of deep, there are many things around etiquette and decorum where I would feel very strange to overstrain that rather than overstrain the topic, hand in hand with the fact that because I'm tending to that, I'm way more aware that people are leaders and leaders are people, so be it influencers, artists, leaders of any sort, and the spirit of equity and the spirit of accommodation and the spirit of I can make a mistake and you can make a mistake, and the spirit of amiability, regardless of our different backgrounds or opinions, and my willingness to grow is something that exists, and is a strong facet of having my Aryan Mercury for the astrologer's view, that is very that is very talkative and very impulsive, but nonetheless quite deep, and with the opposition to Pluto, quite provoking at times. And sometimes I would put out something and I would need to take a break from what I put through because it's so emotional. And I'd like to keep that. And so I think this would be a good starting video for my channel. There are no triggers on this channel. Sometimes I may remember to put a trigger. The reasoning for that, as was with my Facebook groups, is that not because I don't care to be trauma informed, I am dealing with trauma, okay? But because just the chance that you'll run into content and I forgot to put a trigger, which unfortunately is one of the facets of dealing with trauma, that is to me on the scale more important to maintain your safety and say there are no triggers here, be forewarned, than to give you the image of being inclusive and then have a mistake that I cannot accommodate for fixing at all times, because I'm also dealing with trauma, with all that entails, both financially, emotionally, physically. I know that I have a lot of knowledge in a lot of backgrounds, and that can spark the thought that, okay, that let's say my fiscal resources or my ability to hire people are more than they are. They are not. So, so that's something to be taken into account as well. And in that spirit, I do not put like there are all triggers on this channel, on all videos. So whether that's a forecast, whether that's something, because when it comes to speech, some memory can come in, some association can come in, and that's just a part of that. If I will be making trauma-informed videos that are accommodating with the triggers. In the future, that would require a lot of order from me that is incompatible with my style of delivery or my chart. But if ever that happens, then there would be in a dedicated space, or there would be complete different emphasis on these videos. But if there is a trigger in the title of some video, it doesn't mean that the other videos are trigger free. Okay? Very important, just for the safety of everyone. I rather, it's not that I want to lose you as my viewer, but I rather have you being safe and not watching my channel than, the other way around. So that's something to denote. Again, the decorum is very free, and yes. And I think when it comes to, the simple, like, naturally grab them by the pussy would not be a comment that I would, okay, that I would like to see here on the channel. But most other than that, you can be free to speak. The thing is, because I have a Mercury that's quite invasive, but I have a moon that's quite sensitive. So if you can be kind, even though I cannot hold to the same standards, that would be very easy on my emotional state. So that's another, I think, good disclaimer. What you can find here, so many things. It's really all things astrology. So if there is astrology of politics, astrology of declarations of independence, astrology of natal charts, astrology of some interviews that I did before Uranus got into my third full blown. Okay, I became unappointable. So there is some paintings, some very rare videos that do not mention astrology. But it's quite versatile. Both the style, they are cold cases, tending to cold cases, studies. There are talismanic work that I mention, so astrological magic that I do, and I showcase. There are, yes, the earlier videos would be manifestation tips and techniques. Some about my garden, which is also working with the astrology. And yes, and you might find some of the personal challenges that I'm dealing with. So all in all, normally I say, like, I'm an open book, and I'd like to keep it that way. That Mercury Pluto is ruled by quite little retrograde Mars, which means I would not attack you. Okay, just respect that. I think that would be okay. That would be okay. Anything more about the topic? A good frame of mind in thinking about communication, since I'm a person that studies ESP. If you are uncomfortable with terms like telepathy, channeling, remote viewing, or remote sensing, clairvoyance, clairaudience, and stuff like that, just if you really can't hold it to watch content related to that, I think it would be safer for everyone that you'll just skip this channel. And as a person who is a research, that's something that I really like. I can respect that if you kind of hold a place for something and you're not sure, don't understand what it is, or you never experienced that. But as a researcher and the person that experiments in practice with those things, I'm way less patient with people who are going to begin to cast doubt at every. It's not the yeah, like you can wonder about the content. Was it channeling that or channeling that? Was it a mind control or was it pure channeling? That would be appropriate. Um, but when it comes to, questioning the existence of the clairs, um, and being uninformed about that, I don't currently have my ESP study online, or my thesis proposal online. I may have in the future, but that would really not be the correct stage. That would really not be the correct forum. Okay, that's like, save yourself. Very simply put. I don't mean it as a double entendre. Okay, it's kind of like that would be better to reinvest your energy elsewhere. Same as if you come from perspective of like questioning the validity of testimonial of people when they say I am a survivor of violence or I'm dealing with violence and so on. This is MK Ultra affirmative in the sense if you are Cold War veterans, if you're MK Ultra survivor, if you're expandable child, whether you're within the cult, outside the cult, politician, leader, influencer, musician, lawyer, whatnot, actor, actress, whatnot, or outside or satanic ritual abuse survivor, whistleblower, or in between the two, like guys and girls and people and twos, you're all welcome as long as we respect each other. And it's a validating space, okay? Very simply put, it's a validating space. And I'd like to keep it that way. I know that Mercury is going retrograde in my 10th house, which is, and I know that I had to deal with pretty lethal offenses towards me, and had to deal with them my way, which is self-expression and exposure. And it's not about this is my way or the highway. It's about staying alive, and that like I refer you to the video about Mercury on the 22 for more information about that, and the video about crimes against humanity that are punishable by death. So that is pretty much the disclaimer. Since Mercury is about to go retrograde, I assume that video, I might change up some stuff and so on. But that would be more towards freedom rather than towards, anything else. And so watch what you wish for if you want me to rephrase myself, okay? Is all I'm saying. Watch what you wish for if you want to make my channel, my expression, my energy, my speech smaller. Other than that, am I available for interviews and conversations? Like I said, it's very problematic. It's not because I don't want to. It's very problematic. My ability to, maintain healthy lifestyle is now going up with tremendous challenges because of the nature of what I deal with, and having, like an Afspraak or an appointment is incredibly problematic to impossible. I also don't currently give readings for that very reason. It's not that I'm not interested. It's just that would require a whole lot of procedures for me, both fiscally and in terms of, the channel and the equipment and standards that I will have to hold myself to, and the possibility of agents or entertainment lawyers and dealing with those, that and the fact that literally every place is MK Ultra infiltrated. and that is something that would, harm the channel and harm my viewers and harm the participants, even if they are going through this right now. We need the right to exit that on whichever level, skill, or scale we are. Yeah. So while you could say that this is for entertainment purposes and so on and so forth, I'm also a researcher. Okay, and I also carry a certain background, so whenever that applies, we are at the age of decentralized, okay, when it comes to power, when it comes to the use of power, when it comes to the mandate of the heaven. And let's not open a conversation about the filmography of whichever authority at the Pluto Capricorn would we need to tend to. Okay, so let's just keep the vibing. Okay. Yes, when it comes to like requests or reaching me, like I said, this is, it's a personal channel. It's an incredibly personal channel, and I have a personal life, and I don't have to make myself available for anyone or anything under any circumstances. Definitely not when I'm dealing with what I'm dealing. If I choose to, and if that somehow comes about, that's great. And that's also okay. That's also something to keep in mind. Nor would I expect you differently unless you are in current position of power that limits other people's sovereignty, okay? Or that could potentially limit other people's sovereignty, or my sovereignty, for the record. Then I would hold you to these standards that are what people call public position. This is a personal channel. All of it. It's a personal channel, okay? I'm a personal person on this channel, on this platform, okay? So that is, again, something that is very important to keep in mind. When I may talk about my research, or I may talk about astrology, or I may talk about this, or I may talk about that, there is an issue of power equity here, okay? And that is something that we all want to keep in mind and respect. We are at the age where we're supposed to have a conversation regardless of our rank, our origin, and so on and so forth. And the only way that can be accommodating is where we have this conversation as personal sovereigns. And respect that. It is important to keep in mind that if you are in position that has restrictive power over sovereignty, to put it very simply, in the process of until we reach equity of power, that would entail the reversed equation. Okay, so we're talking about the scales. If somebody is holding certain power position, and I mean that very personally. I mean that things that I wouldn't do if I would be in the same position with you. So let's say when it comes to communication, when it comes to let on a personal level, let's say, I would let you go and let you have your space. On a professional, okay, setting and standard, I can appreciate the fact that if we astrologically look at it, the composite doesn't necessarily look very good, but on a professional level, yes, I don't have the privilege to not address certain things as a sovereign personal that are of importance to me. Okay, and I am sensitive to the fact that we are people, and there are various rapports or lack of rapports and various emotions that can come to the surface. Yet if you are in any way, shape, or form hiddenly or openly holding position that could potentially place be affecting to my sense of personal sovereignty, and it's not just a sense, okay, to my personal sovereignty, that would mean that I might communicate more so than had we been personal sovereigns. So whatever your personal experience around the interaction, that can be caused by this factor, okay? So keep that in mind, and I keep that intricacy in mind, and try to be as sensitive as I can, and hold the fact that we're personal sovereigns, and until we get a sovereign system that respect for personal sovereignty on a global level, we are still dealing with those, power inequities. But I will also I wouldn't say vouch, because I don't actually have like power to do that. But I will also speak in your favor when I see that you are being, whether it's you're discredited, or even if I was being too hard on you in the beginning, or if I was, or if I see that some injustice or some power inequity is placed upon you, or that some things are, even if you are like exposed for something, whether it's a scandal or something like that, and I see that that's being used as an agenda, not actually tending to the matter, I will also speak up in your favor. So yes, that would be my disclaimer. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope that you enjoy this channel or get the fuck away.